TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel's defense establishment is broadening its war on terror following the death of IDF Major Bar Falah. U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, tells TV7 that Washington remains consistently committed on preventing Iran from fielding nuclear weapons. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi rejects Iranian claims of political bias and warns of a widening gap in knowledge. Israel's defense establishment is broadening its war on terror as part of Operation Wavesbreaker. IDF, Israel Security Agency, Shin Bet, and Border Police Special Operation Forces conducted counterterrorism activity in the West Bank districts of Judea and Samaria overnight, at the culmination of which 8 terror suspects were apprehended. 2 of those suspects were apprehended on allegations of supporting the terrorists who killed IDF Major Bar Falah yesterday. Separately, the Israeli military has surveyed the homes of the assailants responsible for the death of the Israeli officer. The IDF spokesperson's unit said in a statement that the mapping was conducted in order to examine the possibility of demolishing the residence of the terrorists. It is important to note that during the process of detailing those structures, Palestinian gunmen opened fire, hurled explosive devices and firebombs at the Israeli forces, who responded with live fire. And while hits were identified among the suspected terrorists, no injuries were reported among the Israeli troops. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz visited the site of yesterday's exchange of fire, which resulted in the death of Major Falah. And while utilizing the opportunity to relay his deepest condolences to the fallen officer's family, Jerusalem's top defense official emphasized the regrettable, albeit inevitable, casualty of terror.
בשבועות האחרונים אנחנו רואים עלייה בהיקפי הטרור. אני נמצא במקום שבאופן כללי מאפשר פרנסה טובה לפלסטינים תושבי האזור. לאור הירי ולאור הפיגועים פה החלטתי להאריך את סגירת המעבר עד להודעה חדשה.
In addition to sealing the border crossing where the lethal attack occurred, Defense Minister Gantz also ordered the suspension of entry permits for the residents of Kafr Dana, from which the terrorists who perpetrated the crime originated. He went on to condemn the Palestinian Authority after it has been confirmed that one of the terrorists was a member of the official Palestinian Security Service.
העובדה שאחד המחבלים משתייך למנגנוני הביטחון הפלסטיניים היא חמורה ומהווה תמרור אזהרה לרשות הפלסטינית שחייבת לעשות בדק בית ולפתור. הפגיעה ביציבות הביטחונית תפגע קודם כל בתושבים הפלסטינים וברשות עצמה. אנחנו נמשיך לפעול בעצימות גבוהה, היכן שידרש, מתי שידרש, על מנת למנוע טרור. אני חוזר ואומר, במקום שבו הרשות לא תממש את אחריותה, אנחנו נפעל ככל שידרש.
In the wake of such involvement by the Palestinian Authority security officer, the IDF has decided to toughen its working relations with the agency. In accordance with that move, going forward, IDF forces will arrest any member of the Palestinian Authority security organization who is suspected of conspiring to commit a terror attack. Jerusalem will also refrain from informing Ramallah in advance of such action, as has so far been the case of operational activity to date. Meanwhile, thousands of mourners attended the funeral of Major Bar Falah, who was laid to rest in the central Israeli city of Netanya. Among those paying tribute was IDF Judea and Samaria Division Commander Brigadier General Avi Blot, who expressed praise of the slain 30-year-old officer who was killed while defending the state of Israel. The military leader also cited this week's Torah portion reading, which he said sums up the life of Israelis in the land of Israel.
פרשת כי תבוא מכונה גם פרשת הברכה והכללה, וזה סיפור חיינו פה בארץ. הברכה שאחרי 2000 שנות גלות יש לנו ארץ, מדינה, חירות וריבונות, אור לגויים בתחומים כה רבים, וכן, יש גם כללה בכניסה לארץ, והיא קשורה לאחריות, היא קשורה למחירים שאותם אנו משלמים בכדי להשיג את אותה החירות, על הדבש ועל העוקץ. זה סיפור חיינו.
Among the long list of senior officials and officers who relayed their condolences for Israel's fallen soldier, the United States chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, who is currently visiting Israel, also voiced regret.
I want to pass condolences to the IDF. Major Falah was killed in action in the last 24 hours, and I want to just let his family know, and the entire nation of Israel know that our thoughts and prayers are with you at this time of grief.
General Milley is attending the International IDF Conference on Innovation, joined by scores of top commanders and other defense officials who traveled to the country to form a united approach to the preparation of future challenges.
Well, first of all, I'm very proud and honored to be here at this Innovation Conference, and I want to publicly thank General Kohavi for putting this together. He brought together 22 different countries and 8 different chiefs of defense. All of us are like-minded. We're all allies and partners of one kind or another, and we are all giving way together to try to figure out what the future operational environment is, and to innovate and develop our forces, our organization, our doctrines, our structures, and our equipment in order to meet future challenges.
TV7's Amir Oren was there to ask the American military chief about the latest developments regarding the Iranian threat, during which General Milley sought to reassure Israel that the U.S. remains consistent in its commitment vis-a-vis Tehran's nuclear aspirations.
Going back, I think it's 5 or 6 administrations, it's been a consistent policy of the United States that Iran will not have a fielded nuclear weapon, and that remains our policy.
Fielded a weapon rather than a threshold state. There's a difference.
There is a difference, and I'm not going to go into the difference, but it is the policy of the United States that Iran would not have a fielded nuclear weapon.
While the Washington administration remains committed to thwarting Tehran from having fielded nuclear weapons, the Islamic Republic is now claiming that it has provided an adequate response to the International Atomic Energy Agency's questions about nuclear materials that were detected at undeclared locations, and that IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi's statements that those replies are not technically credible are politically motivated. Nevertheless, despite repeated attempts to smear the IAEA as biased, Iran insists that it is still willing to engage with the United Nations nuclear watchdog.
جمهوری اسلامی ایران آمادگی خودش رو هم برای ادامه همکاری سازنده با آژانس بین المللی انرژی اتمی اعلام کرده و اعلام میکنه.
Responding to Iran's allegations, at a press conference earlier this week, the IAEA Director General not only voiced regret, but also rejected the premise of Tehran's position.
Well, I would say I regret this. This is not new. Of course, it's not new to see that when the agency is demanding certain things and Iran doesn't want to or does not engage in the way one would expect, that they accuse us of being politicizing. This issue is very straightforward. We found traces of uranium in places that were never declared, that were never supposed to have any nuclear activity, and we are asking questions. Explain to me why this is a political use of my authorities. This is what the IAEA is supposed to do. I really hope, that Iran will start cooperating with us as soon as possible. We are ready. We want this to happen. We are not in the business of aggravating or creating situations. We just want this issue to be clarified.
The IAEA Director General further highlighted that only the agency has the mandate to come to a conclusion on the nature of Iran's nuclear program. And while not wanting to sound exaggerated, he stressed that the gap in knowledge about the status of Iran's nuclear program is widening.
It's not 5 or 6 countries that will decide whether Iran has a broad conclusion. It's the IAEA through its normal process. Everything is interconnected. And if anything, what we can see, one point that I can see is that we keep adding segments or I don't want to call them obstacles, but challenges to that in that road. I have been referring to how we get back the knowledge of what is happening now without our cameras being rolling and the other monitoring systems online, enrichment monitoring and flow systems that we used to have and that we lost. So frankly, the information gap is bigger and bigger and bigger. Again, we don't want to sound dramatic, but the reality is that it's going to be extremely difficult, and we will have to work very, very hard, and Iran will have to be very transparent in giving us information, accesses, on a number of things, so we can put back together a picture which will be approximate and never exact, because we don't have the images, to the reality. So I think there's a lot of homework to do before we get to broad conclusion, which is, of course, what we always aspire for countries that have an additional protocol.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is a donation-based ministry. Therefore, if you are blessed by our productions, please consider making a financial contribution that will in turn enable us to sustain our ongoing operations. Additionally, I would like to encourage you to pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.